Hi, I'm Jay, and today I'm going to talk about one of the most common questions we get every year is how do I set my humidistat for my humidifier? So right here's our demonstration unit, and we have two humidistats here. The one that's installed is an automatic style, which is the fancier type. It's digital, has a nice display. It will raise and lower the humidity setting based on how cold it is outside. The colder it gets, the lower it will set your humidity to. The purpose of that is to stop your windows from fogging. If it's very cold outside, it brings the humidity way down, because if you keep it where we'd really like to keep it, which is really about 45%, you'll end up with windows fogging and frosting and potentially damage to your home from that. So even though we'd really like to have 45% year-round, in most applications you can't really get there without damaging the home. So in the bitterest part of the winter, this unit will automatically take the set point for humidity and go from 45% and just keep lowering it until it is compatible with the temperature outside. So it does that automatically. Now, this is an analog or mechanical style humidistat. This one is much more common, and this one you just kind of turn the knob here and you have to do the thinking, if you will, because it doesn't look at the outdoor air temperature. It has no idea what the outdoor temperature is. So we have a little chart that gives us the kind of suggested set points, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But basically with this one, you kind of set it somewhere around the middle or so here, and you see how that works for your house. If the windows begin to fog up or sweat, you just set the humidity a little bit lower and give it a couple of days. If that's still not low enough, you go a little lower and you give it a couple of days. As winter starts to fade away and it gets warmer outside, you can go back here and start raising this thing slowly, and until you get to where you are comfortable. You kind of have a happy mix between comfort in the house and the windows not fogging up. So that's what you need to do with these. Again, 45% is ideal, but you can't really set it at 45% in most homes when it's zero outside, because your windows will fog. So we're going to set this on the side. All right, so let's talk about this automatic one, because it has some really nice features. Okay, this humidistat is in the auto mode. It says that the humidity in the ductwork here is 38%, and the plus in the droplet here means that it's calling for humidity. So the humidifier is running right now. If we take a look at this button here, which is the temperature, we can see that this ductwork here, the temperature inside that ductwork is 81 degrees Fahrenheit. And if I press the button again, it says the outdoor air temperature is 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So the outdoor air temperature sensor, which we have done some movie magic to right now, is saying it's, well, it just changed. It's now saying it's 11 degrees Fahrenheit, and we have 38% humidity in this return air ductwork right now, where the sensor is on this, and it is calling for humidity. When you install this humidistat, you need to tell it what type of home you have. So that is done here with these little arrow buttons in automatic mode. Okay, so we're in automatic mode, which means we have an outdoor air sensor installed, and we want to tell this what type of home we have. There are 10 possibilities here. So it's done by pressing one of these buttons down here, okay? Right now, it says 10 is a set point. We can change it all the way down to 1. And the reasoning behind that is an older home with no insulation will have a tendency to sweat. The windows will sweat, and potentially moisture will develop inside the walls of the home if the humidifier is set a little bit too high. and it's extremely cold outside. So on an older home, you basically have to set the humidity a little lower than you'd like. With a newer home, you can set the humidity higher than an older home. So there are 10 of these, okay? And it's based on 5 different types of homes, basically 1 and 2. Though either one of those is a good setting for a home that is older than 1950 with no vapor barrier and little insulation. A 3 or 4 setting is designed for homes built between 1950 and 1965 with no vapor barrier and R6 insulation. A setting of 5 or 6 is for homes built between 1965 and 1975 with a craft vapor barrier and R11 insulation. A setting of 7 to 8 is for homes built between 1980 and 1990 with craft vapor barrier, R19 double pane windows. And finally, a setting of 9 to 10 is designed for homes built after 1990 with poly vapor barrier, R38 insulation, foam exterior cladding, and triple pane windows. So those are the general parameters. If, for instance, you do have a home that was built in 1950, but you had all the windows replaced with, let's say, triple pane windows, and you had all the walls insulated, so you've remodeled your house dramatically, and you've basically made it a modern home, but it was built in 1940, for instance, you will be able to use a much higher setting here in these parameters than you originally could. So the higher the setting, the better the insulation in the home, the better the windows, and what will happen is it will tell this humidistat that, hey, I can tolerate a higher humidity in the house. Okay, so let's go back to this analog style or manual style humidistat that has the knob that you spin here. You'll notice there are no numbers on this particular model. There are no numbers between 75 and 10. You kind of have to kind of guess at it, okay? The recommended settings, just so you're kind of aware of them, these are typical of the average home. If it's 40 degrees outside, a setting of 45%. If it's 20 degrees outside, a setting of 35%. If it's 0 outside, a setting of 25%. So as you can see, the colder it gets outside, the lower they want the humidity set point set at. It sounds kind of backwards from what you would think, because if it's really cold outside, you'd think you'd want it to be more humid inside. And that would be great, but the problem is most homes you will have potentially issues with windows sweating or even potentially moisture condensing inside the walls. And those are all bad things. So you have to kind of strike a compromise between what would make me perfectly comfortable, which would be about 45% typically for most people, and what's going to stop my home from sweating. And those compromises are typically made here at the humidistat. So again, the colder it is outside, you want to lower the set point. So if the average temperature outside on a week is, let's say, 20 degrees outside, you want to try for about 35% as a setting. And you don't need to be messing with these every day. But if you have a mechanical style stat like this, you might want to kind of go there and tweak it maybe every couple of weeks and try to get it where you're, again, there's compromise between you are comfortable in the house and the windows aren't sweating. That's all you're trying to do is stop the windows from sweating.